You that are here, I've been informed that there's a competing news conference going on at the state capitol because the governor didn't want to release the arbitrator's award. And unfortunately, I don't have copies of the arbitrator's award for you today because I made a promise to the people standing behind me and those that are camera shy still sitting out there that I would not open the award until 1 o'clock. And that's what we did today. I opened this award in front of them. So I have 2 awards. We will email you, if you, Brian, make sure he has your email address. We will email you the award as soon as possible, but right now I don't have an award. The award that we opened up today was as a result of the arbitration hearing we had from February 11th through February 13th in front of Marvin Hill Jr. At that award, we asked the arbitrator to decide on the health insurance. There were other items that the parties had not TA'd, but came to a mutual agreement that we would both submit to the arbitrator for resolution by the arbitrator and incorporate it into his award. And he did that. One of those was wages. So for the next 2 years, or from July 1, 2013 through June 30th, 2015, employees covered by the AFSCME collective bargaining agreement will receive no across-the-board increase. Part of that proposal was that they would continue to receive their steps. Now again, I want to point out to everybody, steps means those people that haven't reached the top of their pay grade. They will continue to receive those steps, and those steps will continue to be received automatically. There are other items that were included in there, and a lot of those were language items. Some of them was the return of language to a current contract status, and some were some modifications. There were some modifications to the layoff language, and there were some modifications to the attendance policy language. But other than that, the contract pretty much stayed status quo. The one thing that was really at the heart of the issue for the arbitrator to decide was health insurance. The arbitrator was given 2 choices between the union's final offer, which was current contract language, and the employer's final offer, which would require state employees to pay 20% of the premium for the health insurance. Arbitrator Marvin Hill ruled in favor of the union. Health insurance for the 2013 to the 2015 collective bargaining agreement will remain as it currently exists in the current collective bargaining agreement. That's important to these folks standing behind me and out there, because again, for about the 6th time in the history of our bargaining, we have given up wages to maintain the health insurance that they currently enjoy. This governor did not focus on the real issue that everybody should be concerned about, that is what does the health insurance cost? All he focused on was trying to take 20% out of these folks' pocket and put back into state treasury. Iowans get a good deal on the cost of the health insurance that the state pays for its employees. And Arbitrator Hill agreed with us on that. That was part of our argument in front of the arbitrator. So they're getting a good deal. And Arbitrator Hill confirmed that today. So it was a huge deal for this group of employees. And we believe Arbitrator Hill made the right decision. What happened during the course of this negotiations, if you want to call it that, was not negotiations. It was a continuation of Terry Branstad's campaign for governor. And he would not back off an issue that was going to be as earth-shaking as it was, as requiring people to go from paying 0 for singles to paying 20%. And I will point out that single employees in this state have never, ever, in the history of the state of Iowa, had to pay for their single insurance. So this governor was trying to change over 3 decades plus of bargaining history, and even before there were collective bargaining agreements in this state, single employees got their health insurance with no premium. So he was trying to make some very dramatic and drastic changes to what happened. And we're not about to let this governor turn our negotiation process into a political campaign, and that's what he tried to do. So I'm hoping that this governor accepts this arbitrator's award and that we can move forward, hopefully working together to improve the lives of the citizens of this state. And I will now take any questions that you might have. I'm sorry I don't have copies of the arbitrator's award again because I opened it for the first time at 1 o'clock today. So I've been waiting a very long time to open that award.
Do you have a sense that he might challenge this?
I have absolutely no idea because this wasn't negotiations, this was a political campaign. So I don't know what this governor is going to do. But we're prepared to do what we have to do to protect our rights under Iowa's Chapter 20 law.
Danny, could you elaborate on the modifications that were made? Some of the modifications you said, attendance language and something else?
Well, there was language put in that currently the contract said the employer couldn't change an attendance policy or create an attendance policy without the agreement of the union. We've now agreed to allow them to change and create new attendance policies, but it will be subject to a reasonableness clause, and that if we don't believe that the policy is reasonable, we can take that to an arbitrator. One of the huge changes that is going to affect us will be that they won't have to lay off temporary employees before they lay off permanent employees anymore. That was language that was deemed permissive by the Iowa Public Employment Relations Board, which means we couldn't take it to arbitration. But we changed the what they used to call the 780-hour rule, which allowed a temporary employee to work up to 780 hours, which is in violation of law. And the code says they can work for 4 months. So that will now be inserted into the contract. I'm scared to move up here because the mics are going to fly.
You can come off if you don't feel comfortable now. You're too warm.
We made some minor changes to the GRIP process to hopefully that we will make it better. We've agreed to sit down with the state and discuss that program, and that's the way that we resolve grievances. And I believe most of the rest of the contract language stayed current contract. So there were very few changes made to the current document. There were some major ones made. The allowing them to do what they want on attendance policies to a reasonable clause is a huge concession on our part, and the modifications to the layoff language could be huge because we could see this employer lay off full-time employees and keep a temp, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me because that temp will only be there for 4 months and then they got to go away. But I don't know what he will attempt to do with that language, but that was language that they wanted, and in the proposal that we submitted to the arbitrator to include in his award, that was part of that proposal.
Did you agree not to do any wage increases to be able to maintain the health care benefits?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that was one of the arguments we made at the arbitration hearing, is that the reason we agreed to do a 2-year wage freeze was solely for the purpose of keeping our health insurance at the current rate, with the current plan and the current premium calculations. So that was, from our perspective, the quid pro quo. We said, we'll take a wage freeze, but don't touch our health insurance. And that's what the arbitrator ruled.
Did the Rancho administration ever offer wage increases if you would have done the contribution?
They never offered an across-the-board increase. They offered something similar to what they offered to the state patrol. And that was a 1% bonus. But in their final offer to us, at arbitration was no wage increase for 2 years.
And contribution to your health care?
And they still wanted us to pay 20% of the health care premium. But that was a mediator's proposal that the mediator gave both sides, and both sides said they would agree to it as long as the arbitrator would include it into his award, and he did so.
Based on what the state's initial position was, especially on changing contract language as well as the wage and the health care versus where you are today, how big of a victory, I guess, would you call this?
I don't want to call it a victory, Rod. I want to say we were able to maintain the majority of our contract language. We were able to maintain the majority of our members' rights. And that's been the history with this state. We haven't seen a proposal, an initial proposal like this governor proposed since he was governor the last time. And it was just a all-out attack on the employees' rights and their benefits covered by this agreement. And I'm ecstatic. I've been sweating this award since February 13th. Talked to a few of you who kept calling and wanting to know if I knew what the award was. I didn't know till 1 o'clock today. And I might, for the first time in a long time, be able to get a decent night's sleep tonight, because I know that our members' benefits and their rights have been, for the most part, preserved.
The governor held a press conference earlier today about the impacts of the governor. Actually, it was David Roeder from the Department of Management about the impact the sequestration cuts could have in Iowa. Have you been given any indication that employees could get furloughed or laid off because of this?
This administration has not talked to me about that. It's one of the things that troubles me greatly, is that this administration has still taken the position to not talk to this union. We represent the largest group of state employees. So we're hoping that that relationship will improve to where we can have those conversations, because we need to be able to talk to one another. And I'm hopeful by how the last couple sessions of negotiations went. Even though we weren't able to reach a voluntary agreement, we were able to have some conversations. And I hope that continues. It's my hope.
The governor's office sort of refuses to call this a defeat. Even with the concessions that you all made, does it feel like a victory?
Again, I believe I was asked that. I'm not going to call it a victory. I'm going to say that we were able to defend our members' rights, we were able to defend our contract, and we were able to defend their benefits. This should not have been a win-loss. This shouldn't have been a victor and a loser. We should have worked to come to a voluntary agreement, and the arbitrator award speaks for itself. We won. Okay, we won on the issue of health insurance, and that's extremely important to our membership. The #1 issue for our members is their health care.
And health insurance was the only issue that went to the arbitrator, is that right?
All the issues went to the arbitrator. He included the mediator's proposal into his award. He referenced it in his award. It became part of his award. The only issue he had to decide was the health insurance.
So you would come to agreement on the other terms?
Both parties had said that if the arbitrator would put into his arbitration award the mediator's proposal, that both parties would accept it. So basically, in our final offers, both parties submitted the mediator's proposal, and the only thing we were at issue with was health insurance.
You spoke about hoping that you can come together and then sort of start talking things out. How much might that go the other way if he chooses to take the course he did in '91 and take this to court and use layoffs to balance out the cost of the contract?
Well, I hope he doesn't do that, Rod. My goal is to establish a relationship with the folks that sat across from me at the table, all right? And try to work in a spirit of cooperation with them to address the issues that not only affect the members that I represent, but the citizens of this state. We have many. Currently, we're not looking at expanding Medicare. We're going to deprive 150,000 Iowans decent health care coverage. We have all the other sequestration cuts. Don't know what those are going to do to us. Those are all issues that we should be talking about. And I, like I've always said, I stand prepared to meet with these people. But it's hard to meet with people that don't want to meet with you. I'm hoping, beyond all hope, that that changes. Because we can't continue to conduct business as we have for the first 2 years of his administration.
How much is the fact that the state has a robust surplus and the fact that you gave wages up in the past to maintain the health coverage that you have, how much do you think that bolstered your case with the arbitrator?
Well, Rod, the only part I have read of this award is the part that says Article, this is what I've read so far. The award, Article 9, Wages and Fringe Benefits, Section 4, Union's final offer. Okay? That's what I've read. I believe, based on the testimony that we provided at the arbitration hearing, and based on everything that we presented, I believe that weighed very heavily in the arbitrator's award. I won't know till I read it. You know, there's an important part of an award. That's the award. But equally as important is the language and the words that the arbitrator put into his award. That he may be issuing some suggestions for us to do in the future. I don't know. But I believe, yeah, it's nice to have the surplus we have, and this union has sacrificed money time and time and time and time and time again. We proved that during the arbitration award, and I believe it had something to do with it.
Danny, in a worst case scenario, is it conceivable that the state would want to keep the temp employees working more so they don't have to pay health insurance with this new language?
They can only keep them for 4 months and they got to go away. So, you know, is that going to be conceivable in a correctional facility? I would hope not, because they have to go through the academy to work in a correctional facility. Is it going to be conceivable to do that in a mental health institute? I don't believe so. Is it going to be conceivable to put a temp employee in a DOT equipment, as an equipment operator, plowing snow, and we've gotten about 50 inches of snow this year, and say, okay, we're not going to provide you any training, just go out and do it? Yeah, he could choose to do those things. I don't think it's going to work. I believe I'm hoping they don't do that. But I guess I'll find out after July 1 of 2013, and we will adjust, okay? We will be monitoring every temp employee that's hired in this state. I'll guarantee you that.
Anything else?
Anybody got any other questions? If you want to look at the awards, I can give you, don't walk off with one of my awards, please, because I'm only got 2 of them, all right?
Danny, will you be available for questions later if some?
And I will be available later, and most of you know how to get a hold of Brian. I'm gonna go back to the office. I have, I believe the arbitrator or Mark has sent me our attorney has sent me a electronic copy of the award. As a matter of fact, I know the state sent me one. So they have it, because they sent me an electronic copy of the award. So I will forward that to anybody that wants it. But if you want to look at it before you leave, I got 2 copies up here. Please don't run off with them, because they're really a nice award. Okay? Anything else? Thank you for coming today. I really appreciate it. Have a nice day.